Today we are moving on to parts of cell and their main characteristics and chief functions. The first is cell membrane, also called plasma membrane. The main characteristics of cell membrane is first is outermost in animal cells, second is lies next to cell wall in plant cell. Very thin flexible living membrane processes fine pores, semi-permeable and made up of lipoproteins. The chief functions of cell membrane is first is separates the contents of cell from its surroundings. The second is regulates the entry of certain solutes and ions. Third, maintains shape of the cell in animal cell only. Now we are discussing about cell wall. It presents into plant cells only. The first main characteristics of cell wall is outermost in plant cells. Second is non-living rigid layer surrounding the plasma membrane. Third is freely permeable. And the fourth is mainly composed of cellulose. The chief functions of cell wall is first is gives rigidity and shape to the plant cell. Second is allows substances in solution to enter and leave the cell without any hindrance. And the third is provides protection. Okay. Now we are moving on cytoplasm. Main characteristics of cytoplasm. First is all the parts together inside the plasma membrane, excluding nucleus. Second, contains a mixture of water and soluble in organic and organic compounds. Second is contains a mixture of water and soluble inorganic and organic compounds and various organelles. The chief functions of cytoplasm is different organelles contained in it perform different functions. Second is all metabolic activities occur in it. And the last is medium for initial steps of respiration, production of pyruvic acid, and aerobic respiration. Next part of cell is endoplasmic reticulum. Main characteristics irregular network of double membrane tubulars. It is continuous with the plasma membrane on the outside and the nuclear membrane on the inside. Maybe smooth endoplasmic reticulum, that's called SER, that is without ribosomes, or rough endoplasmic reticulum, that is RER, that is with ribosomes attached. And the chief characteristics is first is supportive framework for the cell, second is synthesis and transport of proteins and fats. Move on to next part of cell, mitochondria. First main characteristics is of various shapes but usually sausage like. Second is double walled inner wall thrown into folds. Third is have their own DNA containing several genes and also contains their own ribosomes. Chief characteristics of mitochondria is first is release of energy from pyruvic acid produced in cytoplasm in the form of ATP, seat of cellular aerobic respiration and stores energy, and synthesis of respiratory enzymes. Now the next part of cell is Golgi apparatus. In animal cells called dictosomes in plant cell. Now the next part of cell is Golgi apparatus. In animal cells called dictosomes in plant cell. Main characteristics of Golgi apparatus is first is stacks of flattened membrane sacs. Second is consists of tubulars, crystalline vesicules and vacuoles. The chief characteristics first is synthesis and secretion of enzymes, hormones, etc. and formation of acrosome of sperm only in animal cell. The next part of cell is ribosome. Main characteristics of ribosome is small granules either scattered in the cytoplasm or attached to the outside of endoplasmic reticulum, and single-walled, dense, spherical bodies composed mainly of RNA. And the chief characteristics is protein synthesis. Okay. Next part of cell, lysosome. Chief characteristics of lysosome is intracellular digestion, destroy foreign substances. When cell is old or injured, these rapidly destroy organelles, hence called suicide bags. Digest cartilages during formation of bones. And the main characteristics of lysosome is membranous sacs budded off from Golgi body. Contains 40 different types of enzymes. Next part of cell is centrosome. It consists only in animal cells. Main characteristics of centrosome is a region surrounding the centrioles located near nucleus. Second, contains one or two centrioles, and centrioles are surrounded by microtubulars. Chief characteristics of centrosome is initiates and regulates cell division and forms spindle fibers with the help of esters. Next part of cell is plasticytes. It consists only in plant cells. Main characteristics of plasticytes is first, several kinds. Most common ones are chloroplast containing the green pigment chlorophyll. Double membrane proteinous matrix contained DNA, and disc-like structure called thylakoids contains chlorophyll too. The chief characteristics of plasticytes is first is chloroplast, green in color, trap solar energy for photosynthesis, contain the pigment chlorophyll. Okay. Next, leucoplast, colorless, store starch, have no pigment. Note the difference, okay? And third, chromoplast, variously colored, impart color to flowers and fruits, contain the pigments xanthophyll, yellow colored pigment, carotene, orange, red pigment. They also indirectly help in pollination by attracting different pollinators, which then help disperse seeds. Next part of cell is nucleus. Main characteristics of nucleus is first, largest cell organelle. Second, mostly spherical and dense. Third, nuclear membrane with pores to allow substance to enter and leave, and contains network of thread-like structure called chromatin fibers which contain DNA. Now discussing about chief characteristics of nucleus. Regulates cell functions. If removed, the cell dies. Contains chromosomes, bearers of genes that control hereditary characters. Move on to next part of cell, nucleolus. Main characteristics of nucleolus is one or more round-shaped substructures present inside the nucleus. Chief characteristics of nucleolus is produces ribosomes, participates in protein synthesis by forming and storing RNA, and dictates ribosomes to synthesis proteins. Next part of cell is chromatin fibers, a fine thread-like network in resting stage of the nucleus which condense into chromosomes during cell division and made up of DNA threads. The chief characteristics of chromatin fibers is chromosomes carry genes which are carriers of hereditary information from parents to offsprings. The next two parts, that is vacuole and granule, are non-living. These are important in their own way. First, vacuole. The main characteristics of vacuole is clear spaces with water or other substances in solution. Plant cells have few but larger vacuoles, while the animal cells have smaller one, covered by a covering called tonoplast. And the chief characteristics of vacuoles is: first is storage of water and other substances, food, pigments, and water products. Second is give turgidity to the plant cells by pressing against cell wall. And the third is contain pigments like anthocyanins, violet blue color, etc. And the last is granules. Main characteristics of granules is small particles, crystals or droplets. And chief characteristics of granules is store starch in plant cell and glycogen in animal cells, and fat droplets which serve as food for the cell.